Greetings everyone, welcome to another edition of Coach E's Mind Games, where we tackle sport topics with a mental, diversity, and social approach. And for this session, again, this is brought to you by AAA Physical Therapy. It is a top-rated physical therapy practice here in Columbia, Howard County, Maryland. And we also provide telehealth services in that regard. So if you need a movement expert, feel free to go ahead and reach out to AAA Physical Therapy. Check their website out and call them at 443-979-7171. Again, that's 443-979-7171. Okay. So for every session, we always want to go ahead and highlight to donate worthwhile causes. And again, still, right now, we want to focus on naacp.org, especially in relation to everything that's going on. And unfortunately, these things have been going on. It's just that it's brought to the limelight a little bit more. So I understand this is not a one-off, and just thoughts and prayers for everybody else who has suffered unnecessarily. So if you want to go ahead and support this organization or their local chapter or any other nonprofit organization out there, please go ahead and support them. All right, so for today's session, so there's a little bit more of a talk of the NBA reopening and finishing this season. And I believe 2 weeks ago, I've already discussed certain things of what they can go ahead and consider and pay attention to whatever details that they need to go ahead and pay attention to. So at the end of the day, I'm not a medical health expert, so I'll just be asking certain questions, so things for them to go ahead and consider. So as I related to the nonprofit organization that I'm promoting, would this be a good way to go ahead and promote more about social injustices and promote the opposite side of that? And how about working on other isms? So if racism is an issue, how about sexism, ageism, any other ism that you can think of? I believe this league is very progressive, and the NBA players, especially the superstars, are very much vocal with everything that's happening. And so this could be an avenue, especially I'm not really sure what's going on in baseball right now, and I know there's a lot of other things that's being canceled. Some are trying to open up. I know some type of soccer league, so I don't know the details. But in terms of using their platforms, so shout out to LeBron James, and again, I'm wearing his high school jersey. And wherein he's promoting more about voter suppression and how these things are happening and how things could be a little bit more fair. You would think that for a developed country, which is this country, that you don't have to line up for hours and hours and hours and hours just to vote. I grew up in a developing country, and it's super difficult to vote, and to have elected leaders that's as legally or fair as possible without much other magic that goes on. You are hoping that it's not happening here, but all of the difficulties and the challenges that I've been hearing or listening to the news, whether legitimate or not. Maybe that's the other thing. But it's height of the night to see all of these lines upon lines upon lines that voters have to wait for hours and hours and hours just to vote. You would have, again, you would go ahead and think and believe that for a developed country, for a powerful country like this, voting is something that could be made a little bit easier. And so, yeah, just definitely something to go ahead and consider. And if you don't vote, you are losing the opportunity to put the right people in office. So now you may be go ahead and thinking, why am I talking about these things in relation to Coach E's mind games? The reason being is sports is intertwined with a lot of other things, and just like what Muhammad Ali has done against the Vietnam War, I'm not saying LeBron James is our Muhammad Ali of our time. I'm not saying that, but he is the closest one that you can identify as a very powerful sports figure that's very much involved with these aspects of life. That again, you can go ahead and think that voting is everyone's right and just make things easier. So why is it that in certain parts of the country that seems to be a little bit more challenging, things break down easily, and so on and so forth? So again, you're thinking things would be a little bit more effective and efficient in that regard. So yeah, that's why this is being discussed here in this program. Oh, if you're listening to this podcast, thank you. Obviously, I was showing my LeBron James jersey when he was in high school. And if you want to watch it on YouTube, feel free to go to our YouTube channel. So again, the main issue here is the overall health of everyone going. So now the coaches, especially up their age, how challenging would that be? Because the science says that anyone over 60, 65, 70 are of higher risk regarding COVID-19. And if they're going to Florida right now, and Florida seems to be more of a hot spot as a state, it's just how do the teams take care of the people that they work with? How do the players protect themselves and protect their loved ones, their teammates, their coaching staff? And again, my thought process here is that the coaches can just zoom in if they don't have to be there. So I know it's going to be weird, but it has been weird anyway. If they're really going to go ahead and push this, I would like to see it happen. But we have to be realistic about it, again, concerning the overall health of everyone. How are they going to go ahead and protect themselves and their loved ones? And speaking of loved ones, specifically their families, or are they going to have no families there? And I am really, really surprised that, and I'll discuss it a little bit later, that they're going to have all of these other games and they're making it the best of 7 for on the first round all the way to the finals. I think that's too much. But what do I know? And yeah, so best of 7. Practically, it's almost a new season. The players who are out, what, March, April, May, June? 4 months. March, April, May, June. And they're starting July. It's just, How are 4 or 5 months? So there's no proper training. And when we are quarantined and stay at home, do all players have access to all the necessary equipment and trainers to go ahead and help them out? And so on that note, in terms of possible injuries, is that going to take place? Because there's no proper training. I mean, training camp lasts for how long? 4 weeks, 6 weeks? And they have preseason games. And then now we're jumping into the end of the season and straight to the playoffs. If you go ahead and identify the quality of play in November versus March in a typical regular season, except for teams that are tanking, that's a whole different story. But for teams that are competing for a playoff spot, they're not a well-oiled machine. And I'll go back to the third bullet here, overall health of everyone. Can the coaches opt out? Can the referees opt out? Can whoever opt out? And what if, and I'm already hearing about these other high-profile athletes thinking of opting out. So if you're going to have a best of 7 of bench players, and again, their overall health is not necessarily protected, it's something the NBA needs to go ahead and figure out. And again, the possibility of injuries. We're talking about AAA physical therapy here. It's so important how warm-up is. And yes, these are world-class athletes, but you just don't flip that switch and perform at a high level. Or if you're going to go ahead and force yourself, I'm not so sure how that's going to go. And after all of these, you win the NBA championship. Guess what? 1 month down the road, 1 year down the road, 1 decade down the road, they're going to put an asterisk on this championship anyway. I mean, it's just not normal. So why risk all of that? Again, I want the NBA to start. They need to have some level of normalcy with everything that's going on. But the reality of COVID-19 is still happening. You don't have to listen to me. Just listen to the scientists. Listen to the experts. Okay? And then if they're going to push the next season, are they going to play the full 82 games again? How are they going to make that happen? And then if the Olympics take place, how are they going to manage all of that schedule? And so, what if one NBA player, one coach is tested and they're tested positive of COVID-19? And then through contact tracing, make sure you go ahead and click the Coursera course. It's a free one, just to go ahead and learn more about COVID-19 and contact tracing. The way I understand it is that, as I got my certification there, but still, not because I got a certification, I am an expert on contact tracing. But if one person tests positive, then now people need to quarantine. So if a superstar player tests positive of COVID-19 in that team, they need to quarantine. He's definitely going to stay at home or stay in that hotel. And then all of the other teammates and coaches have to quarantine and practically stay at home as well, or stay in that hotel. And then the opponents have to do the same, because the superstar player are in direct contact, trash talking, dapping people up. And if two teams have to quarantine, what would happen for a best of 7 situation here? They're not quarantining for 1 day. I believe it's 10 days without showing symptoms. I can't remember the exact numbers. Please don't revoke my certificate. I know I could review it. But going back to that, you have to quarantine for at least a week. So if you're in the second game, and it's best of 7, how would that go? It's just weird. How are you going to manage that? So you have to go ahead and delay until everybody's asymptomatic and all good, and they have not tested positive anymore. And so that's another delay, and then that's another week of not being able to work out, not being able to work with your teams. It's just off. So again, the health, especially of the athletes, you're looking at 2 things here. One, regarding COVID-19. Number 2, in terms of injuries, and possibly both. It just doesn't make sense. Again, as much as I would love for them to go back, but given the realities of right now, how are they going to manage it? I guess they're in touch with all the necessary experts that they have to talk to. So I assume they're hammering things out. So as long as the athletes, the owners, the management are all informed on how they're going to go about it, then that's good. Okay? Going back to this, let's say LeBron James, knock on wood, what if he tests positive of COVID-19? Just really think about that. I'm not going to speak for him whether he wants to or not. Obviously, there's so many other details that people have to go ahead and consider. It's just, and obviously I'm not that smart to go ahead and identify what the solutions are for all of these situations. I'm just presenting things that for all the decision makers, because I love this game. I love the NBA. It's great that Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert are bounced back from COVID-19, that they're not as affected as some other people are. Yet, in spite of, just look at the science, it's what if a superstar like the LeBron James and COVID-19, and it's great, again, it's great that Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert are okay. But what if a superstar athlete doesn't become okay? Are we going to be completely fine with that? For to finish the season, to make this work, and with everything that's going on, with all the tension pretty much in this country, we can view it in 2 ways: that we can use this as a good platform, but we need to concentrate a little bit further on how we can make all these systemic changes, make sure that such things do not happen anymore. Recorded or not, these things don't happen anymore. So that is my session for Coach E's Mind Games today. We'll see you next week. If you want to join live, feel free to go ahead and do that. And again, make sure you support the nonprofit organization that we're working with. We're doing this on Fridays, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So feel free to go ahead and join us. And we love sponsors. So feel free to reach out to me, 866-887-7821, or Manuel at topvirtualstaffing.com. And please subscribe and share Coach E's Mind Games. So again, we're thankful to AAA Physical Therapy, who will provide your personalized rehabilitation, and we also provide telehealth services there. Right. So thank you. And we'll see you next time. Be safe. Take care.
Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this video informational and educational. Please share our videos and subscribe to our channel. If not, my dad will not give me dessert.